Welcome back, guys. So today we are going to be looking at repairing a Nintendo 64 controller, essentially replacing the analog stick. As you can see, this analog stick's not too bad, but you'll see like that white powder in there. Your analog stick starts getting a little droopy, a little loose. Sometimes they'll be all the way loose to where they just hang to one side. Once that happens, man, it sucks. You can't play your games anymore with that. It's just ridiculous. So what we're gonna do is use a GameCube style joystick that's made for the Nintendo 64 controller. And these things are awesome. My other Nintendo 64 controllers have these in them, and I swear by them. Pretty awesome stuff. If you want this part, you could typically get them for about 10 bucks on Amazon. I will put a link in the description, and trust me, you will love having these in your Nintendo 64 controllers versus the stock sticks. Unless you do have a stick that is tight, then, you know, by all means, either use it or replace it and keep it as a backup. But that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna go ahead and replace this part. So first thing to do is you do have some screws. Up top, there is 2 screws. You do need to make sure you pay attention to that. I have already removed them. They are little screws. They are different size than these ones. And there are 7 more screws to do. So let's go ahead and get those out. Fast forward, screw in action. Let's do this. And then just be careful not to lose any of these screws. You really don't want to have to try to find replacements or not be able to fully screw your controller back in. So just be careful with that, always. And then the shell just comes right off pretty easily. And as you see, the Z button stays attached, so you don't have to worry about that. And this is a prime time to clean up the plastic, especially if you got a used controller. In these corners here that I'm showing, a lot of times, like, people never wash their hands, and a bunch of grime and Cheeto dust and whatever other crap gets in there. So this is the time, clean it up, Q-tip, alcohol, whatever. And then the only other thing that's gonna be loose are gonna be the L and R triggers. I just try to leave them in place. If they fall off, and they will, they can easily be put back on. But we're gonna go ahead and unscrew the analog stick, and the analog stick is just gonna be these 3 screws. The one on the left, right, and then on the bottom. So go ahead and unscrew those fellas. And then from there, this one right here that I'm pointing at, the black one, that's just a housing screw for the actual analog stick. You do not need to remove that to take it out. So we need to take out the actual button for the Z button, for the Z trigger, whatever you want to call it. Just kind of be careful. It kind of like pops into place on the actual analog stick, and then go ahead and pull out the connector that is right on the side there, that blue piece. And then there we go. That part is out. So now I actually want to show you, like, the reason why this analog stick on the Nintendo 64 gets like this is almost it's a design flaw, essentially. So I'm going to go ahead and open this one up and show you what I'm talking about, because you might wonder what is, like, you know, around the analog stick, and everybody has seen this. If you haven't seen this, then you've never, like, had a analog stick used on your Nintendo 64 controller, because over a short period of time of using this, you start seeing a white powder in that crevice around the analog stick. And I always, when I was a youngster, I always wondered, what the hell is this? Like, I didn't know. Essentially what it is the way this analog stick is designed. It's a pretty neat stick, don't get me wrong, but you see I'm dropping all this powder like crazy. Is that the analog kind of, it has these gears and whatnot. I don't know how else to describe them, but that's not the part of it. You know, that's part of the sensor and whatnot, that mechanism. But underneath, there's a bowl, that white plastic that's to the right. And you see, this is all ground up plastic that's on my fingers here. This all came out of this analog stick. that was actually still in pretty good condition. So there's tons of them that are out there that are a lot worse than this. If you buy them used, it's hard to get an analog stick that's perfect. You're always going to have this white powder after use over time. You know, just playing Mario Party kills these things. So this is a definite great upgrade to do. But you see here, this little bowl, the piece of the analog stick, like grinds it. It just grinds it away to where it becomes loose, you know, even more and more loose over time, to where the analog stick's not sitting in that bowl anymore. It's just kind of leaning around, and that's not good, you know. So we don't really want to mess with that. We want to go ahead and get our GameCube style stick in there, because once you get used to using it, and it's honestly, it's not even anything to get used to, it just feels natural anyway, but it's just a higher quality stick. So it's a definite worthwhile upgrade or repair to fix a Nintendo 64 controller that you don't want to have to replace, because it's very hard to get new controllers unless they're third party. And a lot of the third party controllers out there for Nintendo 64, let's be honest with ourselves, they suck. So we went ahead, dropped in the new stick, and then we're going to go ahead and plug that bad boy in to the connector there. Pretty simple. Just make sure it gets in there nice and snug. Like I said, your L and R buttons will probably fall out, so no big deal. I don't know why I keep putting it back on. You know, might as well wait until you're done with it. But here you also need to make sure you wedge that button, the Z button, back in there, the little board for the button. Like I said, it just kind of pops into place. You can get it on there with the actual pad, but I typically just try to get the board on there so I don't damage anything, and then I just try to get that on, because there are 2 pegs that it goes through on the board, and then just try to slide it on there, and it should be good. And then we just need to use the same screws on those 3 spots, the left, right, and bottom, to screw the analog stick back in. Pretty simple. This is definitely not a complicated stick or controller to take apart and to repair. There's a lot of controllers out there that are a lot more complicated. The second you open them, everything falls apart. Just crazy. Nintendo 64, like I said, the only thing you really got to worry about is your L and R's falling off, but they just pop right back into place. There's no springs or anything, so that works. So then we're going to go ahead, put the shell back on, and make sure everything is lined up, clicks into place, and then just start screwing everything back in. I'm only going to screw in a couple screws here, just so I can get her back into holding shape so I can show you the finished product. But let's go ahead and screw some screws back in and take a quick look. So there she is, finished product, brand new, awesome analog stick. Everything feels fine. Typically, like I said, nothing comes loose, so you don't really have to worry about your buttons or anything coming loose. But once you have that analog stick plugged in, screwed back in, your L and R buttons put back on, the housing back screwed in, man, this thing is amazing. I love using these sticks on all my Nintendo 64 controllers, and I highly recommend this upgrade to anyone who is a Nintendo 64 fan. If you're hardcore and you're like, well, that's not original, well, I don't know what to tell you, man. Go ahead and spend the extra money or be content with your loose sticks. Me, I think it's a fine upgrade, and I love it, and I just wanted to show this to you guys so you could be aware, hey, I can easily fix or change out my analog stick to something that's going to work a lot better and last a lot longer. So I hope you guys appreciate it. Smash that like button, and I will catch y'all next time. Boom!